Welcome to Believe in God's Love from Divine Providence by Emanuel Swedenborg, Vegetarian, Part 2 of 2 on Words of Wisdom. In the 18th century, a great Swedish scientist and inventor, at the height of his career, began to see visions of heaven, spirits, saints, and angels. He saw Lord Jesus come to open his inner eye, which allowed him to travel in the celestial sphere and talk with different spiritual beings. This mystical experience transformed the scientist into an enlightened spiritual leader with a new understanding of Christianity. His name is Emanuel Swedenborg. From 1744 onwards, Emanuel Swedenborg spent over a decade of his life writing down what he saw in his spiritual voyages in more than 24 books. His visions of heaven and the afterlife, his realization that God is love, and his discovery of the Holy Bible's deeper meanings are just some of the revolutionary topics he bravely documented. The life and works of this remarkable spiritual world explorer inspire people to this day. Let us continue with selections from Divine Providence, where Emanuel Swedenborg gives a more in-depth analysis of the importance of appreciating God's love. The Lord's Governance. The Lord does not let anything remain divided. This means that things must be focused either on what is both good and true, or on what is both evil and false. The first of the goals toward which the Lord's divine providence works is that we should be engaged in what is good and what is true together. That is our good and our love, and that is our truth and our wisdom, because that is what makes us human and images of the Lord. It is because of these two factors, our ability to be engaged in something evil and something true at the same time, and the Lord's inability to prevent this because of the goal, which is our salvation, that our discernment can be lifted up into heaven's light, and see what is true or recognize it when we hear it, even while our love remains down below. This means that we can be in heaven in our discernment and in hell in our love, and we cannot be denied this possibility because we cannot be deprived of the two abilities that make us human. The two abilities that alone make our rebirth and salvation possible, namely, our rationality and our freedom. These two abilities, that is, are what enable us to act in keeping with wisdom or to act in keeping with a love that has no wisdom. These are what enable us to look down from wisdom on our love below, and therefore see our thoughts, intentions, and feelings, to see what is evil and false, and what is good and true in our lives and our beliefs. If we could not recognize and admit these things in ourselves, we could not be remade. This is how we can be engaged in what is good and what is true together, and in what is evil and what is false together, and do this alternately. It is hard for us to attain union or unity of what is good and what is true, or of what is evil and what is false in this world, because as long as we are living here, we are kept in a state of reformation or rebirth. We all attain one union or the other after death though, because then we can no longer be remade or reborn. We keep the quality of life we led in the world, that is, the quality of our primary love. If our life was governed by evil love, anything true we have learned in this world from teachers, sermons, or the word is taken away. Once it is gone, we soak up the falsity that agrees with our evil, the way a sponge soaks up water. Conversely, if our life has been governed by good love, then everything false we have picked up from what we have heard and read in the world without intentionally adopting, it is taken away, and in its place, we are given the truth that agrees with our good. This is the intent of these words of the Lord. Take the talent from this one, and give it to the one who has 10 talents. To all those who have, more will be given, in ample supply. But from those who do not have, even what they have will be taken away. Matthew 25:28, 29, 13:12, Mark 4:25, Luke 8:18, 19:24-26. The reason everyone must be engaged in what is good and what is true together after death, or in what is evil and what is false, is that good and evil cannot be united. Neither can good and any falsity that is prompted by evil, or evil and any truth that is prompted by anything good. Such things are opposites, and opposites battle with each other until one destroys the other. It is people who are engaged in evil and good at the same time that is referred to in these words of the Lord. No one can serve two masters. You will either hate one and love the other, or cling to one and ignore the other. Matthew 6:24. If something is focused on what is both good and true, then it is something. But if it is focused on what is both evil and false, it is not anything at all. What is both good and true is something, and it follows from this that anything that is both evil and false is nothing. Being nothing means having no power, no trace of spiritual life. People who are focused on what is evil and false together, all of whom are in hell, do have a kind of power among themselves. An evil individual can do harm and, in fact, does harm in thousands of ways, though it is only from evil that an evil individual can harm evil people. Still, an evil person can do no harm whatever to good people. If that happens, which it sometimes does, it is through the evil one identifying with something evil in the good. This gives rise to temptations that are attacks by evil people among themselves, resulting in the struggles that enable good people to be freed from their evils. Because evil people have no power, all hell is a virtual nothing in the Lord's sight, an absolute nothing when it comes to power. The remarkable thing is, though, that all the evil people believe they are powerful, and all the good people believe they themselves are not. This is because evil people ascribe everything to their own power, their own deviousness and malice, and nothing to the Lord, while good people ascribe nothing to their own prudence and everything to the Lord, who is omnipotent. Another reason anything both evil and false is nothing is that it has no trace of spiritual life. This is why a hellish life is called death rather than life, since anything that exists belongs to life. Nothing that exists can belong to death. People who are involved in evil and in truth at the same time can be compared to eagles that soar high overhead but plunge down if they lose their wings. Something like this happens to people after death when they become spirits, if they have understood, discussed, and taught truths, but have never turned to God in their lives. Their comprehension lifts them on high, and sometimes they get into heaven and pretend to be angels of light. However, when they are deprived of their truths and dismissed, they plunge into hell. Eagles mean predatory people who have intellectual vision, and wings mean spiritual truths. I mentioned that these are people who never turn to God in their lives. Turning to God in our lives simply means thinking that some particular evil action is a sin against God, and therefore not doing it. For more information on Emanuel Swedenborg, please visit swedenborg.com.
Being vegan has helped me immensely. I don't feel sluggish like I did when I was eating meat, and my recovery from training really took off. Morgan Mitchell, vegan.
Honest viewers, thank you for joining us today for Words of Wisdom.